we start.
Are we good? All right, man. Take 3. All right, so here we go. Welcome back, Grant Training Systems. Today we're going to discuss an issue that a lot of my athletes, clients, and patients complain about, and that's pain within the mid-thoracic region of their back, either during sports, when they're waking up in the morning, when they're sitting at the computer, basically anytime throughout their daily activities, yeah? And what I want to do is I want to discuss some of the effective ways to go about alleviating this issue. So I know everybody probably knows ways in which they can stretch their back or they can foam roll their muscles and take care of the problem, but I want to nerd out a bit and get a bit deeper into the physiological and anatomical issues of what's really going on with the stretching. So I've got my boy Andy behind the camera. He's going to be nice enough to zoom in here. We're going to go over 3 important factors, and then after we're going to take him to the mat and we're going to discuss or show what we discussed within these 3 factors. So breathing. Why is it important? I think everybody has an idea that when you breathe, it increases the oxygen to your muscles, which relaxes your body and allows for a greater stretch, which is true, but I think that is a bit basic. What I like to explain to my athletes and clients is the importance of breathing by what happens if you don't breathe. Obviously, if you don't breathe long enough, you die, but there's things that happen before that. And one of them is basically when you see someone stretching and they're not able to go the full distance, you see them basically stop breathing and fight, where it kind of looks like that face where they're forcing that stretch. Well, basically, once you start forcing something, you probably notice you don't really breathe regularly, or you completely halt breathing altogether. When you're doing that, you're basically freezing the nervous system. One of the ways that we check for an increase in blood pressure or if the heart is working correctly is by something called the Valsalva maneuver. And that is basically the same thing. It's increasing the intrathecal pressure of your body, which is a bit beyond what we're talking about. But either way, we use that test in order to see a spike in either blood pressure or the irregular activity of the heart. So when you're stretching, if you're doing that non-breathing pattern, you are not only spiking your blood pressure, but you're not allowing the nervous system to do what it needs to do. And when you stretch, you're trying to release the muscles, so you need that nervous system, not frozen, but actually working and able to release those muscles. So that's a bit of a confusing topic. I hope I explained it well. I haven't done that in a while. So if there's any questions, just write me on either the Facebook or the YouTube, and I can try to do a better job explaining it. But we're going to move on to number 2, which is muscle spindle and Golgi tendon organ. These are also quite important within the nervous system, and this kind of reiterates back to why breathing is so important. But basically, have you ever thought about when you just stand straight and you go and touch your toes, how you don't go forever and you don't tear your muscles in half? Well, obviously, God was smart enough to give us a system in our body that prevents us from hurting ourselves when we stretch. When you go to the doctor, they hit your knee and you get that reflex where it kicks up. These are all things that are supposed to happen in the body, but at the same time, we need to learn how to relax these things in order to make the stretch happen. So scientifically, we have when you go down and you automatically get the stretch within the muscle so you don't hurt yourself, something you want to pulls right back and not allow that elongation of the muscle. That is what the muscle spindle does. And then the Golgi tendon organ is what basically tells it to relax. So if you go back to like ballistic stretching, where people used to hold it for like this, basically hold it static for 1 second and move it, the science says in order for the muscle to relax, we need a 6 to 8 second static hold in order for the Golgi tendon organ to tell the muscle spindle to relax. So going back to the ballistic stretching, if you think about the people when they used to bounce, well, if you're bouncing, you realize that there's no 6 to 8 second static hold for the tendon organ to relax. You're only basically getting, I don't know, maybe a 1 second static hold until you're bouncing again. Therefore, you're not allowing that neuromuscular relaxation so that muscle can then elongate. Which is why, if you think about it, people say ballistic stretching, the bouncing and the stretch, is not really effective. That basically goes back to the more intricate roles of the muscle spindle and Golgi tendon organ. So moving on to number 3, relaxation during the stretch. To minimize something called co-contraction, What this is let's talk about basically the simple stretches within the latissimus dorsi that we're trying to stretch. Maybe when we're standing up or grabbing something, we're basically causing traction of that shoulder to try to stretch this area to alleviate that pain that we're having in our thoracic back. That is okay, but the co-contraction, what this means is that we're having certain muscles relax, but other muscles contract at the same time. So if you're standing up and you're attempting to stretch that area, yeah, you're going to have the relaxation of your mid-thoracic region, but all the muscles in which are allowing you to stand, which also connect to the same complex that your mid-thoracic muscles connect to, are contracted. So while we're stretching half of the body complex, the other half is actually in a contracted state. So personally, I think it's better to try to get relaxation of as many muscles as possible to allow the true relaxation and elongation of that area that we're trying to stretch. So basically, the three factors, I hope I did alright explaining them, all correlate within each other. Breathing is basically important because if your nervous system cannot work, the muscle spindle and the Golgi tendon organ are not allowed to effectively do their job. And if you have half your muscles contracting while you're trying to stretch the other half, your muscle spindle and Golgi tendon organ, again, are not really allowed to truly effectively do their job because as half your body is relaxing, the other half is contracting, keeping your balance, keeping you upright, but yet trying to stretch at the same time. So with that being said, we're going to take these three factors and we're going to use my boy Andy here to show you how we can start to relax that thoracic region and get a stretch within that back to take that pain away, which most people are feeling right in this general area. So I take the camera.